How's it going, everyone? I'm Great Ape Reviews, and I'm here to share my opinion no one asked for on the MCU's latest installment. Captain America Brave New World comes on the heels of Marvel's many failures, and it was already settled with being Mackie's first, well, mostly solo outing as the new Captain America after the painful mess that was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. God, was that a painful watch. Combine that with having to deal with the MCU's overall world building catastrophe, and most of all, the numerous reshoots and complete reimaginings of the movie that went on during production, goes a long way towards explaining the extremely messy and underdeveloped final product that we received. The movie starts us off with President Ross, who is actually Thaddeus Ross from the Invincible Hulk movie, thanking the public for electing him president and having some speech about togetherness and such. And then we transition to a scene more reminiscent of the previous movies, which is something Brave New World does quite a lot of. And namely, this is starting us off on a mission with Cap in action to retrieve a mystery canister and save some hostages. From here, this is where the cracks in the movie begin showing, because we have Giancarlo Esposito reprising his role as menacing villain man for what feels like the 100th time in the last 10 years. And we see just how lacking the action scenes are when it comes to hand-to-hand combat with Sam Wilson. There's constant jump cuts and slow movements that feel weirdly inconsistent with the overall flow of the movie, as later on we have scenes where Danny Ramirez, playing Joaquin Torres as Falcon's replacement, actually performs relatively nicely in very similar scenes, but inconsistent quality seems to be a running theme for this movie, so I guess that's fitting. After a successful mission, bar Giancarlo escaping, we go back to the US, where Sam introduces Torres to Isaiah Bradley, and the two of them just happen to explain his backstory completely for the audience that didn't watch the TV show. Lucky them. From there, we go to a party in the White House where Bradley is none too keen on being, as he sees the government as the enemy. This party is actually meant for a treaty discussing the massive celestials taking out in the Indian Ocean. Only it took us about 4 whole years, but it was finally mentioned again, everyone, and well, I guess that's something, even though any mention of that horrid pile of sludge that was the Eternals movie fills me with dread. It's impressive that they had the ability to actually recall what the previous movies did. And turns out, mankind can actually harvest adamantium from the Celestial, and that's what was in the mystery canister that was saved by Sam and Torres in the beginning. I'm not sure how this will connect later on to them including the X-Men and Wolverine, but it does feel a bit cheapened if he just has some weird alien material, but that's a concern for a later time. And it is at this moment that we encounter our second big villain of the movie. A song plays and suddenly Bradley and some other people in the room are mind controlled through their phones and attempt to assassinate Ross. If you haven't already noticed, the movie tries very hard to ape its predecessors and make you remember how well done the grounded conspiracies and political intrigue, and including the brainwashing scene in Winter Soldier and Civil War was done. However, here all it does is it serves to highlight just how completely lackluster and lacking this is compared to what came before, which is a running theme for the past 2 phases of Marvel. After Bradley's arrest, Sam goes to confront President Ross about it, where we're formally introduced to Ruth Bat Seraph, also known in the comics as Sabra, an Israeli superhero, which, to nobody's shock, is a bit glanced over, and there's no real mention of her comics moniker or even her superpowers. However, this is not quite shocking considering current events, and possibly why the name of the movie was changed from New World Order, which would have some interesting implications to certain parts of the fan base. Anyway, her and Ross shut Sam down when he tries to clear Bradley's name and say they'll handle it, which of course forces our protagonist to go attempt to do it anyway. We get forced into another action scene between Sam and Giancarlo, which feels slightly comical considering that Giancarlo Esposito is 66 years old and isn't quite as physically imposing when he moves twice as slow as Anthony Mackie. And after defeating him, we finally get to hear from the movie's main villain, Samuel Stern, who is revealed to have been orchestrating all the events of the movie so far, including hiring Giancarlo's criminal group to steal the adamantium from the Japanese in the beginning with CIA money so Sam can retrieve it, only to reveal that information to the Japanese government and blow up Ross's treaty about the adamantium and the Celestial in the ocean. If you're starting to think that this movie is a bit too messy when it comes to its storytelling, oh, please just wait for what comes after. So while the US starts preparing for conflict with Japan's navy, which already on its surface sounds quite absurd considering everything that's happened, Sam and Joaquin trace Stern's call to a US Army base where they find out that, oh no, he was actually Ross's prisoner all along and was helping him with his political ambitions and all of his plans in order to secure his freedom and get cured from his gamma mutations. And he was also making these suspicious pills for President Ross, which, oh boy, I wonder what those could be. Surely the marketing wouldn't have spoiled who the main villain is and a big reveal such as... oh, so they did. Of course, Stearns escapes because he's super duper smart and already knew they would confront him this way, and he calculated all of the probabilities. And yeah, it's a classic case of smart villain being written by complete buffoons, but c'est la vie, I guess. After a brief but depressing action scene, Ruth shows up and they head over to the Celestial in order to warn Ross about Stern's plan and stop the conflict from escalating between the US and Japan. But oh no, he has somehow already brainwashed 2 US pilots using a song and has them firing on the Japanese fleet. After some slightly better CG action sequences and a decent moment where Stern is trying to goad and manipulate Ross into losing control, where, gee, I wonder what could possibly he be aiming for. Surely it wasn't leaked in all of the promotional materials. But while all this is going on, Sam and Joaquin manage to stop the US pilots and de-escalate the situation. Not without some injuries, however, as Joaquin Torres is heavily injured from one of the rockets, which knocks him out of commission for the climax of this movie, actually leaving Sam Wilson some time to try and shine in the spotlight, which inevitably doesn't quite work out. From here, President Ross reveals that the pills Stern was making for him were to treat his heart failure, but at the same time, at the CO training base where Stern has somehow snuck onto, don't question it, he's super smart, guys. He manages to kill Sam's friend just before he informs him that said pills have gamma radiation inside of them, which I'm sure is coming as a shocker to everyone that's in the audience. After this, Stern just turns himself into Sam for some reason or another. And from there, Sam rushes to the White House to try and stop whatever Stern's plan could be from occurring. At the White House, Ross is trying to give another speech about the treaty, and I feel like you can make a drinking game with how many times they say treaty in this movie. And right before Sam can arrive, Stern manages to play some audio of him and Ross making a deal, which inevitably causes him to finally lose control and start tweaking like Harrison Ford as soon as he's asked a question about Star Wars. I made the joke, guys. Are you happy? Please? Anyway, shock and horror, he turns into Red Hulk, which is a surprise none of us saw coming, I am sure. After some CGI action sequences where Sam with his vibranium wings, Ant-Man helmet, Wakanda suit, and Steve's shield manages to somehow survive and talk Ross down using his daughter Betty, President Ross turns himself in and goes to the raft, where he finally reconciles with his daughter, who forgives him for trying to kill and chasing her boyfriend Bruce Banner all throughout the country. The treaty manages to go through, and Sam manages to have a very, very meta monologue about how he feels he'll never be good enough to take up Steve's mantle and really be Captain America for certain people. Did you get it, audience? Did you get it? And that's kind of it. That's the movie. And if I have to be honest, it's just painfully underwhelming. Inconsistent action scenes, inconsistent CGI quality, and just inconsistent quality overall. Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson does a decent job with what slop he's given in terms of a script. However, the movie just feels like another rehash of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where he struggles with coming to terms with the mantle of Captain America. And if we have to judge by this movie, he's yet to do so either. While charismatic and funny, Mackie lacks that certain oomph that gives the leading man his feel and his stage presence, and Marvel certainly aren't helping him by just giving him scraps from every other non-powered hero they can think of. Some vibranium suit and wings from Wakanda, Steve's shield, Ant-Man's helmet. He feels like a cobbled together child's toy who just wants to give his favorite every superpower and everything that his other toys have, which is also a good metaphor for the movie, because it just feels like it's trying to take what it can from previous projects that have worked well and not quite be able to mash them well together. Like 3 different projects just cobbled together, and this is really seen with Giancarlo Esposito's character, who shows up for like 3 scenes overall in the movie, and his inclusion feels mostly unnecessary, and he really doesn't achieve anything in the movie. And like I said before, Stern faces the constant drawback of trying to write about inhumanly smart characters who are just leaps and bounds above everyone else. He's written by idiots. He keeps talking about percentages and about probability and how things always turn out how he predicts, and yet at every turn in this movie he's proven wrong and keeps doing some stupid actions like sneaking onto a military base instead of mind controlling somebody on the base, or turning himself in for no reason. I guess you could argue it's because he only wants revenge on Ross, but his whole motivation is being freed and finding a cure for his mutation, which makes it a bit nonsensical, I guess. Meanwhile, Harrison Ford does manage to deliver a relatively good performance and do some of the heavy lifting for this movie, where his character has a good core with the struggle of a man trying to do better and redeem himself for his past mistakes. However, that's not really ever explored in the movie. It just keeps getting brought up and everyone just says, "Oh, he's changed now," while others scream, "But you're the Hulk Hunter." And the whole movie is just full of unnecessary characters and moments that just try to harken back to previous entries, namely Winter Soldier and Civil War, but without any of the style or the substance that those movies had. And what we're left with in the end is just another helping of more corporal slop, but at least people seem to be coming to terms with it. Even journalists are not pleased with this movie and are rating it lower than ever before. Anyway guys, thanks for listening to my first video. I know it's messy and the editing is questionable at best, but honestly I mostly just made this channel to get my thoughts out there because my friends got bored of me rambling on about movies, shows, and games and my thoughts on them. So leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and please let me know what you think I could do better in my next video. I'm still looking for a topic on it, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. This has been Great Tape Reviews, and I'll see you guys next time.